Hi, this is Heather. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to create a t-shirt with your Cricut, all the way from the concept to the creation with the Cricut. I'm starting by just creating a very simple pencil sketch of my idea. So my idea for this one is to do a little raccoon and a fox that are best friends sitting together. Now that I'm done with the sketch, I'm going to take a picture of the drawing with my camera and then just open it up in Adobe Illustrator. After opening in Adobe Illustrator, I just copy and pasted the sketch into a new document. Then I double click on the layer and I mark it as a template so that it will be faded back and it will be locked so that I can draw over it without it moving. I create a new layer to start my drawing. I selected a brush that I had already made that using my Wacom tablet, the thickness will change with the pressure that I use for the pen. But you could draw this any way you want. So you could use the pen tool if you don't have a tablet, or you can use a pen that doesn't have varying thickness. That kind of depends on your style, so it's really up to you how you want to do it. Once I'm happy with my drawing, then I'm going to save it as an Illustrator file. It's good to save the original Illustrator file so that you have all of your strokes in place in case you ever want to go back and make any changes or use the drawing for another project and maybe make some modifications. Now I can go ahead and delete the layer that has my drawing on it because I don't need that anymore. The next thing I'm going to do is select all of my strokes and expand them so that they're not strokes anymore, they're going to be outlines of the strokes. And this is because if we just left it like this and brought it into Cricut, Cricut wouldn't know to have the different thicknesses of the lines, and also it wouldn't be cutting around the stroke, it would just be cutting the single line of the stroke. So long story short, we just need to convert them to outlines. So I just select all and go to Object, Expand Appearance. Now you can see that each separate stroke has an outline around it, so there are a lot of overlapping outlines. So this would actually be an issue because Cricut would cut around all of those outlines. So we want those to go away. Wherever they're overlapping, it actually needs to just combine and be one whole shape. So in order to do that, you want to select all and go down to your Pathfinder window and click Unite, where those two little boxes are together. And that's going to turn it all into one shape. Now you can just check over it really quickly and just make sure nothing looks too weird. You don't want to have any open spaces where the color wouldn't be isolated to a certain spot when you're filling in with the colors, which you'll see how that works later. The next thing I like to do is simplify the path, because if you look at the path, you really don't need all those points. So just go to Path, Simplify, and then when you're in that window, I like to have a pretty high curve, precision, and angle threshold, and only bring it down just a little bit, and you'll see like it'll go from like 400 points to like 300, and it'll just really simplify it so that it's a lot easier to edit, and it's just a lot simpler, and so that's why I like to do it. And you can click the preview button, click it on and off, make sure it doesn't change your design too much. You're just trying to kind of simplify the file. The next thing I like to do is just look for any weird things that might have happened after you simplified the points. For example, if you have 2 points in one space, then you're going to have like a weird little loopy thing. And if you have multiple points in one spot, then the Cricut is actually going to go over that spot multiple times, and it's going to cut up the vinyl or the paper too much. So you want to make sure that all of your points are nice and clean and nice clean curves, and you don't want to have multiple points in one place. So definitely look for those, and if you find multiple ones in one spot, then you just want to delete those extra ones. I just do select all, and then you can see all of your anchor points, and then you will be able to tell if you have any weird ones that you need to get rid of. You just press the minus sign so that you get your delete anchor point tool, and then you can delete any of the points you need to, and then after that just keep pressing select all again, and then you can see all of your points again, and continue to look through them. If you want more details on this part of the process, check out my other video, how to create a Cricut SVG from scratch in Illustrator. Now that I have everything converted to outlines, I'll go ahead and save it as an SVG file. The next step is going to be to add color. To add color, I'm going to start by just making a rectangle of some color. I'll use red since my fox is going to be red. I like to use the swatches because that way if I'm making multiple things red, then they're all going to be the same red and they'll be recognized as the same color in Cricut. So I'm just creating my rectangle, and then I'm going to send it to the back so that it's behind the lines. So I'm going to do arrange, send to back. Now I want to slice up my rectangle based on the outlines of my drawing. So in order to do that, I'm going to select all, so I get both the rectangle and the strokes. And then I'm going to go to my Pathfinder and click merge. That's going to be the third button in the bottom. So that is going to take the rectangle and the outlines and just slice everything up based on those. So you'll have all these little different areas that you can just click and select what color they're going to be. After you finish merging, you'll need to ungroup those items because Illustrator automatically grouped them together. So you're going to want to go to Object, Ungroup. Now we have all our separate pieces, so we can go ahead and delete the background out, and then we can select all of the pieces that we want white, and then click on the white. Then we can select our gray pieces and click on the gray, and so on. Since I have some black fills and also black strokes, I want to combine all the black together so that it's one shape. So I'm going to select a black item, and then do select same fill color so that I have all the black, and then I'll go down to my Pathfinder again, and I'm going to click the Unite, and then that's going to combine it all into one shape. The next thing we're going to do is combine everything that's one color into a single compound path. That way, when we bring it into Cricut, all of the red pieces are going to be one thing and all of the gray pieces will be one thing, and you won't have to combine them together in Cricut. So in order to do that, we'll start with the white, and we'll select something white, and then we're going to do select same fill color. And then that will select all of the white pieces. Then we go to Object, Compound Path, Make, and this is going to combine everything white into its own single path. So then we'll just go ahead and do that with all of the rest of the colors. For this next part, I like to just click on every single piece and then cut from the current layer. Then I create a new layer and I paste in place, Command-Shift-V. And the reason why I do that is because sometimes there will be like weird stray pieces on the original layer, and then the Cricut will actually cut them, and you don't want those to be in there. So it just kind of sometimes happens and sometimes doesn't. So just kind of as a precaution, I do that. I just select all of the pieces that I want, I create a new layer, and I just cut and I paste it onto that new layer, and then I delete the old layer. Now the next step is very important. If you've ever done layered iron-ons in Cricut, then you know that you always need to have like a base color, a kind of background color for your iron-on, and then you want to put all of your pieces on top of that. So with these black outlines, we can't just have the black outlines as a layer and then the different pieces as a layer. Because when you're ironing on, the colored pieces and also the outlines, everything, it's going to shrink a little bit. And then sometimes things just aren't going to line up. I pretty much never get them to line up perfectly. Like you could never have the sizes come out absolutely perfectly every time. So what you want to do is have the black part is going to be a silhouette basically of the entire drawing. And then we're going to have gray pieces that we layer on top of it, white pieces, and red pieces. And then the black outlines that you see and also the black elements in the design, those are actually all from the base layer of black. And they're just showing through because that's where we don't have gray, white, or red. I hope that makes sense. So in order to make this black layer, we want it to be solid, a silhouette. So we're going to copy our whole drawing, and then we're going to lock that layer and create a new layer. So we're locking that layer so that it's not going to move around. We're not going to be messing around with it. We create a new layer, and then we paste in place, Command-Shift-V. Then we're just going to switch layers because we want the black to be on the bottom layer. So let's go ahead and lock the top layer that we had just pasted on, and then we're going to unlock the bottom layer. Now you can go ahead and hide the top layer so that we don't see it and we can just work on the bottom layer. So just click that little eye. Now we're going to select all and go down to the Pathfinder and click Unite, and this is going to combine it into one single shape. Probably black, but if it doesn't end up being black, you can just select black from your swatches. Now notice all these weird little anchor points that are in the middle of our silhouette, just kind of floating around. These are here mostly because of the combining that we did using the Unite and the Pathfinder. A lot of the parts where we may have had like lines or shapes, like where the eye was or something, there may be like a little teeny gap or something like that. So you just end up with some of these little points, and you need to get rid of them because the Cricut will cut where they are, and then you'll have random little cuts in your vinyl or your paper or whatever you're cutting. So what you need to do is just press A so that you have your anchor point select tool, and then you can press Command A or Control A for select all, and then you'll be able to see all the little points, and you can just click on an individual point and press delete, and then do select all again so you can see the rest of them, and just repeat that until you get rid of all of those little points. Now that all those stray points are gone, we can go ahead and make our second layer visible. So now we can see all of the color and the black. And then we just need to delete the black off of the top layer, because now we have our bottom silhouette layer of black, so we don't need any of the lines of black or fills of black that we had on the top layer. So you can hide the bottom layer so that you don't see the bottom black layer, and that'll make it easier to delete all the black and get rid of it because you can see what you're deleting. So we'll just go ahead and unlock the top layer now, and then we can click on all of the black pieces and click delete, and you'll see that now there's no more black on our color layer. Now we can go ahead and make our black layer visible, and we should be ready to bring this into Design Space. So just make sure you save so that you have your most recent changes, and then you can switch over to Cricut Design Space in your web browser. In Cricut Design Space, we can go ahead and create a new project by clicking on this plus sign. Then we're going to want to upload our SVG, so click Upload Image and browse, and then go ahead and find the SVG that you made. And click Open, and then Save. Now you can just click on the image and click Insert Image. Now you can see that we have all of the appropriate layers over in our layers palette. So we have the white, the red, the gray, and the black. So now that we have all those, we can go ahead and size it to the right size. Here's my shirt that I'm going to use, so I'm just flattening it out on the table, and then I'm going to grab a ruler, and I'm just going to measure about how big I want it, usually like a little bit bigger than the width of the neck, and I definitely want to give some margin from the two sides of the shirt. And it looks like 8 inches is pretty good. So now we're back in Design Space, and we can just drag to select all of our design. And then we're going to go up to the little box for the width and change it to 8 and press enter, and then the height will automatically adjust. So now that we have it the right size, we can click Make It. Now all of the different colors are sorted onto different mats. So we want to make sure we click Mirror on each of the mats. Since this is an iron-on project, and for iron-on material you always want to mirror it. Also, as we go through and click Mirror for each of the mats, we can look at the mat that Cricut shows on the screen here and write down the sizes for each of the colors of vinyl that we need. So we don't actually need to put an entire 12 by 12 piece of vinyl. We can kind of conserve by cutting it down. So for example, for the gray, we would only need like 5 inches wide by about 7.2 inches high. Now we can go ahead and cut our vinyl according to the dimensions that we wrote down for each of the colors. Now we can switch back to Design Space and click Continue. And then we just want to wait for it to connect to the Cricut. And then once it's connected, we also want to set our material. Make sure you set the material to iron on. Now we can put our first color onto our mat and feed it into the Cricut. And we'll just go through each color in order off of our little list that we made of the different colors, so it'll still be in that same order. So we're going to start with the first color, which was gray, and you want to make sure you put it shiny side down. And then we're just going to stick it down and press it really good. And then we can use our little roller tool to roll it down and get it down nice and tight. And then we'll bring it over to the Cricut. And then we're just going to stick it in and press the little arrow button that's flashing. And then we'll press the little flashing C. And then we'll let the Cricut do its work. I know when the Cricut's done because the little arrow light is going to be flashing and it's not going to be cutting anymore. So I'm just going to click that little light and it's going to release the mat, and then I can pull the mat out. And then I'm just going to bring it over to my desk and start the weeding. Now I'm using my hook tool to just get a little corner of the vinyl and pull it up. And then slowly peel it away. And then I'll just continue that, getting all the little small pieces and just pulling all the little pieces away until it's all done. Now we can take it off the mat and admire how cute it is. And then we'll just set it aside and we'll continue the process for the rest of the colors. Now we get to actually iron on our pieces onto the shirt. So we're going to start with the black layer, which is going to be the layer in the back. And you want to place it about 1 inch or 2 from the neck of the shirt. And just try to center it roughly. Oh, and also you should preheat the shirt if you can remember. I forget pretty much every time. I'm trying to get into the habit, but I just always forget. So I forgot to this time. I'm using my Cricut Easy Press, and since we're doing layers, and like we had mentioned earlier, there will be shrinkage. The vinyl will actually shrink, and then the other colors won't fit on as well. I actually like to just do the Easy Press for 1 to 2 seconds. This is actually enough to get it to stick just initially, and you won't have as much shrinkage because you're not heating it for quite as long. The important thing though is you want to push very hard. The pressure is so important. So just 1 to 2 seconds, push very hard, and that's it. Then you can very slowly peel the backing off of the iron-on. If you have some pieces that kind of aren't completely stuck, but if they're still good enough to stay in place, you can just leave them. They'll eventually get stuck when you add more layers. Now we can go ahead and add the red layer on top of the black. So if you look at it, when we start to put the red layer on top of it, you can tell that the black did shrink a little bit. So the red layer, as we put it on top of it, we lose a little bit of our black outline. If we have enough black outline on the top of the head, then we don't have any on the bottom of the tail. So the solution for this is we're just going to cut the pieces apart and just apply them separately. And that's usually good enough for everything to look like it fits pretty good. I mean, it doesn't shrink so much that you actually can't use the piece. You just usually can't put a bunch of pieces on together, like connected with the plastic. So we just cut them apart, and then see each one fits on pretty well separately. Since we're doing our second layer, the whole thing isn't covered by the plastic, so some of it's still exposed. So we just need to put a little piece of parchment paper over it to protect the whole image. And then we can do our quick couple of seconds again with some pressure. And then we can go ahead and peel off the plastic. And then we'll just continue that for the rest of the pieces until we're done. When you're done with all of the layers, then you can just cover them all up with the parchment paper and do your final press for the total amount of time that you need to do it for the material. And then after that, your shirt is done. I hope this was helpful. If you liked it, let me know and give me a thumbs up. And you can subscribe to my channel for more of these kinds of videos. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments, and I will be happy to answer them. And if you have any suggestions for things that I could improve on for the video or new videos to make, then please let me know as well. And happy Cricuting!